a bit crabby to me, but I don't know. Maybe he's missing the gear, he couldn't get off the line, not too sure, but he's very slow, so hopefully if he has got a problem he'll pull off the track, not to give anyone else any more problems, and another delayed start, which we don't really need. We are doing okay, I think, for time at the minute, which is good, but any further delays could cause problems later on in the afternoon. But what has happened, once this formation lap has got underway, the clock has started ticking down, so we're already into the race, so they've kind of not ruined it for themselves, but with that problem we had for the car stops Druids, it has eaten into a bit of time. So the red lights are back on. We are good to go this time with the same order we had from the previous start, with Andrew Wilson and Colin Voice on the front row, so it's Holden against Ford, with then Malcolm Harding and Rod Burley, local man, as we said, up to something plus of 600 wins now, near enough 700 I think it will be, maybe even more, but I'm surprised he hasn't been up, Rod, because he's normally always up here just telling us what's going on and giving us some information, but Rod very much focused on his weekend and his race, which is about to start now as the red lights go off. We do get a start this time for the 15-minute Classic Thunder and Blue Oval Saloon Series, and Colin Boyce trying to go to the outside of Andrew Wilson, which he does. So on this occasion it does work and it does stick, so great move there from Colin Boyce. Rob Burley tries to go around the outside of the Holden as well. He's got to be very late on the brakes to get that one done, which is not too bad, but he's going to be up into third, maybe not quite second place there, as they still run side by side, almost 3 wide through the corner, which I think it is, as they come down towards the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend, and Rob Burley sends one to the inside in the black BMW, and he goes through, and unfortunately Andrew Wilson has lost not just one, not two, possibly three, as the 101 machine of Malcolm Harding also tries to come into the mix as well.
Yeah, I think the Holden got a bit mugged there. I don't know if they need to be warming up their tyres a little bit more, but it's certainly a fantastic start by Voice, isn't it? Colin Voice absolutely flying away from it. Almost looks like the Legends race we just watched with Gibson. Absolutely flying right now, and into, as he said, second place across line. In fact, the Holden's coming back, and look at the grunt that he's got underneath that bonnet. He's absolutely flying past, but then he has to brake so early as they come into Paddock Hill Bend that he loses out on the position. So there you go, power and speed isn't quite everything, Jeremy Clarkson.
And it's a heavy car, isn't it? That's the thing, he has to get on those brakes so early. He's got the grunt in a straight line, which is not too much of here at Brands Hatch, so he's very limited to where he can use that power, and the back end will want to step out on multiple occasions. Now Rob Burley in second place, comes under attack from Malcolm Harding in his 101 Ford Escort as they work their way down the back straight for the second time of asking, and drawing alongside again goes Malcolm Harding, a little bit wide into the corner, and so Rob Burley will hold on to that position, and it's going to be a bit more deja vu, isn't it, because Andrew Wilson will try and fire that Monaro alongside and try and get himself up into second place. Whilst behind them, I think James Janicki's coming into the mix before too much longer in the blue skyline, and yeah, there's no way through there. Both of them block off Andrew Wilson. He can't get through, inside or outside, so he sticks in fourth place, as behind James Janicki now does go through into fifth position, so the Nissan Skyline comes into the equation as well.
Yeah, I was actually pointing just then, Matt, because there looked like a lot of blue smoke coming from maybe a panel rubbing on maybe one of the tyres of Burley, and I thought he was slowing up really badly over the start-finish line. He has gone a lot slower. I think there's a problem with Burley's car here. Not entirely sure. It might be to do with the smoke that I saw. It's on the right rear tyre. Yeah, I think he's had some a knock potentially of the bodywork onto that tyre, but he's plummeting here. His race is over. He might as well come in here because it's just going to do him more damage.
Certainly is. Pardon me, certainly is. I think he possibly might have a puncher as well. That might be a slow puncher starting to emulate wide again, isn't it, Clark? So that's going to allow another car through. So Rob Burley continues on. I think that was kind of because he couldn't get to the pit lane there, but he's on the high wide again, and he now realises he has got a more serious problem. So Rob Burley, what a shame. The BMW not paying up to what the Ford Escort normally does, but he carries on for now. But I'm sure he'll be into the pits before too much longer, as Colin Boyce continues to lead the race in car number 21 by 6.6 seconds now. So he's up the road, a bit like Ryan Smith in the trucks earlier. He's kind of taken his theory from the earlier race to try and do exactly the same, as now it's Escort 1-2 with Malcolm Harding to second. Andrew Wilson still sits there in what's going to be third position, and up into fourth has now gone James Janicki. So the Skyline making good progress. We'll see if he can make any further progress on Andrew Wilson, because last time through he did a 53.6, which was still about 4/10 of a second slower than Andrew Wilson. So not making any inroads at the minute, but James Janicki now in a good place as Andrew Wilson tries to come onto the back of Malcolm Harding across the line, but as soon as they hit Paddock Hill Bend, the brakes will come on a lot earlier, and he'll remain there in third position as, just to let you know, the BMW of number 45 has just had a little bit of a moment along the Cooper Straight, so that's going to be Clint Chalmers, who was heading off, back on the track, yellow flags out briefly, but now we're back to green and Graham Hill Bend.
Just amazed at that Colin Voice's speed at the moment, and we've seen nothing today so far that have had a gap of 6 seconds. I mean, around a 1.2 mile track, 6 seconds is monumental. I know a lot of the drivers in second place were holding each other up, but it's quite astonishing. So fair play to the people that have, whether it's Colin and his friends or whether he has a team setting up that car. It's absolutely flying. It seems to be very much on point, shall we say. Here comes the Holden yet again with that mighty grunt against Harding into Paddock Hill Bend, but again, he must get on the brakes about 30 metres before Harding, and he just can't live with it at the moment, Wilson. He's going to have to, if he wants to make a move, he's going to have to take a brave pill, but I would then very much suspect that he might end up in a gravel. He knows his car better than I do, and I'm sure he's driving it to the absolute limit that he can. As they're going towards Graham Hill Bend, you can see there's a big margin as we're going through, even just 3 corners. Harding's Boss S category car is just pulling away, and as they hit the straight, there's not one long enough here at Brands Hatch for the power of the Holden to really come back at them.
No, certainly not, but James Janicki is trying to come back to them. He did on the previous lap at 51.4, so he is getting quicker, although then he did drop off the lap after, so he's half a second slower. It comes and goes for James Janicki as Andrew Wilson tries again for second place, again to the inside. This time it might actually work. He's got on the brakes a little bit later. Philip Braver now in towards Paddock Hill Bend, so he takes that place away, but let's see if Malcolm Harding through his part of the circuit can then retaliate and get back into second place, because again, on the anchors, Andrew Wilson is just a little bit slower through the corner, much heavier car to turn through, not as nimble as the Escort behind, but for now, Andrew Wilson does go back into second position as Colin Boyce comes up onto a bit of traffic for the first time in this race, and believe it or not, the gap has been caught and brought down between first and second, so we're down to 5.5 seconds, so whether Colin Boyce has gone too hard too early and that car is now starting to suffer, maybe overheating or tyres or whatever it may be, it might just be a slow lap time just to get past the traffic, but Colin Boyce's gap has been brought down briefly. 5.5 becomes 4.2, and Andrew Wilson does the best lap of the race at 51.0, so with clear track, Jack, it's not too bad at all.
I was going to say, Wilson, that's actually 0.3 of a second quicker than what he managed in the qualifying earlier on, so at one point I thought maybe Voice had qualified out of position, maybe he wasn't at his maximum. Voice has actually equalled his qualifying time pretty much down to the 100th, and whereas Wilson just seemed to be off it, so maybe the car just needed a warm up. These sort of older cars, that is a little bit of a, I wouldn't say a problem, but a quirk compared to the sort of modern day cars where you basically turn it on and you're ready to go essentially. These older ones might just need a little bit more love before they get going.
And that's the thing, if you look at qualifying, Colin Boyce probably can do the same time every single lap, whereas, as I said, Andrew, once that car is warmed up, it gets better and better and better as the race wears on. So Andrew Wilson goes through once more. He doesn't do a new quickest lap, it's only fractionally slower, but get this, it's 1.5 seconds quicker than Colin Boyce. So already that gap now down to 2.8 seconds. So don't count your chickens just yet, Colin Boyce. You've got plenty more traffic to deal with in this race. You've got just over 5.5 minutes to go, and Andrew Wilson is now starting to home down on your rear tail, so this is not good news for the very quick starting Colin Boyce, but Andrew Wilson continues to push on. Malcolm Harding still third, James Janicki number 19 still fourth, fifth place, now quite a way back actually, is the number 35 machine of Mike Manning, so he has really dropped back, but the main thing for Mike is he's second in class, so that's a good thing for him, and he rounds out the top 5 as the leaders come back towards us to complete lap number 9.
Yeah, and I think getting up to traffic now, it's easier. I tried to make this point last week, but I don't think I did a brilliant job during the modified force. I'm going to try and make it a little bit easier this time. It is easier if you've got a big engine to get through the traffic than it is if you're quick through the corners and slower on the straight. You'll be held up more during the corners, so if your advantage is during the corners and you get held up, you're basically a sitting duck on the straight, whereas the Holden will be the same speed as a lot of these back markers through the corners, but on the straight will absolutely power past them, and that advantage will be pretty much non-existent for Colin Boyce during this traffic. So expect as they carve through the next lap or two, that gap's going to come down even more significantly, and there we go, actually 1.5 seconds again on that previous lap. What they're going to do this time? In fact, he's going for the race lead, isn't he? So Wilson's not messing about. He goes for the race lead, actually uses the back marker to box in Colin Boyce, and there is a change. So yeah, Wilson, he's switched on now, hasn't he? He's absolutely flying.
Certainly is. He breezed past the race leader, he breezed past the traffic, but now through the corners he will be held up a little bit. But good point made there, Jack. I get the idea of that one. Through the corners, same speed as the back marker, down the straights a lot quicker, although Colin Boyce has come back to Andrew Wilson through the corner, but he can't make a move, so on the straights he'll lose out. As they head down towards Surtees corner, Andrew Wilson has taken over the lead of this race with 3 3/4 minutes to go. Just to note as well, the man I mentioned, Mike Manning, who was kind of in 5th position, has just ventured into the pit lane, so not good news for the number 35 machine, who was, as I spoke, in 2nd place in class, so he's really tumbled down the order now. So some problems for that car, unfortunately. The leaders go through in the new order of Andrew Wilson ahead of Colin Boyce. The gap between them now just under a second, but surely with this lead, Andrew Wilson will now start to pull away.
Yeah, and for anybody who wanted to keep up to date with Rod Burley's race, he came into the pits, spent 3 laps in the pits, and is now back out. He's in 25th overall, obviously not in contention for anything significant, but he is out there racing, so if you're a Rod Burley fan, keep an eye out, because at the moment I think he's going side by side with the driver who's trying to lap him, but obviously these two were very equal before Burley came in, so it's actually quite hard for the driver to lap him, which is, I think, is the Harding in the 101 machine.
There's still smoke coming from the right rear though, so that problem isn't rectified, but he seems to be up to pace. Maybe he felt a problem, came in, the team said it's nothing major, it's just a bit of rubbing bodywork. Oh, and there's a car off at Clark Curve, unfortunately, so a car has brought itself right to the edge of the gravel trap, and that's the Holden Commodore by the looks of it, which is in the hands of Paul Eaton, isn't it? So Paul's had a bit of a moment, whether on his own or whether it was with some help, but that was very close with the traffic coming through Clark Curve, not to collect him there, but he's managed to roll out the gravel trap into the pit lane, but still has no power, so that was a worry. Thankfully less of a worry now that it's onto the entrance of the pit lane, but yeah, just a few minutes from home, that could have been a bit of a moment for Andrew Wilson to have this gap cut down, but as it stands, he's still working his way nicely through the traffic. And just back to the point of Rod Burney, yeah, he was trying to race with those people around him who are laps ahead of him. He knows he can't, but he wants to. It's kind of a chicken and the egg situation there.
Yeah, he's basically got a little bit carried away, I think. He'll probably know the fact that he shouldn't be doing it, and that's why he gave the position up in the end. I have to say, I can't quite remember, who was the driver who was on the outside there? It was Eaton, wasn't it, in the Commodore? I've been in that situation where you're sat basically on the racing line of a very fast corner like Clark Curve. It is absolutely terrifying because you're obviously watching all these drivers come at about 100 mile an hour past you, and all they have to do is not see you momentarily and they'll be in the side of you. So I can understand him wanting to put his foot down and try and cut across the track as early as possible. Luckily he is safe, although his car is stopped right in the pit entrance. Hopefully it's just to the side of the pit entrance, so there won't be any problems with that further forward. So Wilson leads the way, the number 97 now by a gap of 1.6 seconds, so Boyce hasn't been dropped significantly, but it's not exactly a reply, shall we say. Harding in 3rd position, Janicki in 4th, with Davis currently sat in 5th, and I have to say there's a pretty big gap between them. I suppose the closest battle in the top 5 would be Janicki to Harding for 3rd position, about half a second.
Yeah, last lap board has gone out, so Andrew Wilson has got one more tour of the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit to go for today, but I don't think it's going to be challenged by Colin Boyce with that gap now to 3.5 seconds. So the traffic has played its part a little bit, but the power of Andrew Wilson has definitely kicked in through the second half of this race, which is, I'm sure, very much going to please him as he heads now down the Cooper Straight for the final time. Colin Boyce on his tail through there in 2nd, and James Janicki, as you said, is probably the closest battle we have on circuit, just behind Malcolm Harding. They're going to battle for the last couple of corners as they turn left through Surtees in towards McLaren. Can James stick it to Malcolm in towards the right hand? Not quite, although it's going to be a drag to the line here. These cars will probably be fairly evenly matched as Andrew Wilson comes up to the line to take the win in the Classic Thunder Saloons and the Blue Oval Saloon Series, which will be won by Malcolm Harding, although he was just passed on the line there, I think, yes, by James Janicki by 30 thousandths of a second. So Janicki just pipping the Blue Oval Saloon Series winner Malcolm Harding there for 3rd place overall, but of course that does not affect class order. For 5th place across the line is going to be number 15. That will go the way of Davies as he comes through. That's Tony Davies in Renzo. start. Behind them in 5th position. That changes, doesn't it? What's that? Because 33 moves ahead there, which is up into 5th position, and that's going to be from the Royal Saloon series, I believe. But yeah, 33 going through to take the place away, which is Waterman. 15 for Davies, 7th place for number 29. That'll go the way of Mike Thurley, and then behind that you've got Steele in 8th position, 9th place for number 34 in Dave Griffin, and 10th place for number 123, which is AJ Owen. So he comes through to get the final place inside the top 10. Lots of different classes, lots of different winners. We've got the Classic Thunder being won by Andrew Wilson, and Blue Oval Salute Series being won by Malcolm Harding. So really good race in there. It was a race of two halves effectively, where Colin Voice sprinted away, but all of a sudden Andrew Wilson came into the mix to hound him down and pick up his first overall win of the season after his podium, which he scored at Silverstone for the opening round. So good stuff there from the Thunder Saloons and the Blue Oval Saloon Series as always, and they'll be back with us tomorrow for one final race. So eventful stuff. Quite a high attrition rate as well didn't we have there, because Alan Breck didn't make it to the end. Also Paul Eaton didn't make it. Birdie we know has some problems. Michael Manning had some issues. The Argrave Sierra, which didn't get off the line, also retired. Collier, Brown and Moffat also down there. But fingers crossed we'll have them back out for tomorrow's second race. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyable stuff here at Brands Hatch in the sunshine with the Thunder Saloons and Blue Ovals.